Every club.
Every day.
The Global Sports Podcast Network.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Daily Newcastle podcast. My name is Michael Grahamslaw, and I will be your host today, but I do not come alone. Joining me this evening is Iain Mackay. How's it going, my friend?
Hello, Michael. It's going very well. I've got a bit of mixed feelings about today. We're going to get into it. I'm a bit disappointed. However, I think we might have been doing some very clever work at the same time, but we'll talk about it in a bit.
Maybe a bit, maybe right now. So it's been a busy couple of days on that transfer front. You spoke about it with Yoane the other day. Liverpool joined the race for Hugo Ekitike, who looks likely to join Liverpool now. We've apparently inquired about Yoane Wissa, who apparently wants to join up with Thomas Frank, we were saying a little bit earlier, but won't be sold if Bryan Mbeumo leaves. So it's been announced today that Liverpool have agreed personal terms with Ekitike. We've pulled out of the deal. It's been a bit of a roller coaster of a week in reality. How have you been left feeling about it all? You were saying a bit disappointed there.
Well, I think Joanne and I were getting right into the happy clapping. Ekitike's coming, he's coming, he's coming last night.
Not just last night, let's be honest.
Well, yeah, I mean, we knew we'd underbid when the first one went in, so
Yeah.
But I think the fact that as soon as Liverpool have slapped some money down, and I think it's only the same 70 million that we put down, we've pulled out of it. I think I think that might just have been a big ploy to get Liverpool to buy a different striker. Because let's face it, Liverpool sell Núñez and Diaz, and they've already got this 80 million up their sleeve. They could afford, and I think they said, didn't they, on that informal approach, they could afford to smash the British transfer record if we were prepared to let Isak leave, which of course we give them a big no thanks. So maybe we've forced their hand into taking Ekitike so that they're not interested in coming and getting Isak this year, and therefore we've secured Alex Isak for the next season, which I've got to be absolutely ecstatic about.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's genuinely, we'll look back on this week as the most pivotal week in our transfer window. Alanga officially signed. The bid for Ekitike forced Liverpool to play their hand. £80 million is more than likely what they're going to have to pay. That's a massive chunk out of their budget. Takes them to 300 plus million euros overall. Not quite sure what that is in pounds, but as you say, Núñez and Diaz haven't been sold yet. They are struggling to sell those players. So it could be a little while before we see them in the hunt for any other players after Ekitike. Our interest in Wissa has forced Man United to meet Brentford's valuation of Bryan Mbeumo. Only took them 6 weeks, and then when Newcastle are on the doorstep, do it straight away. Little coincidence there, maybe, but it feels like we're actively trying to force our potential rivals for transfers into spending money early in the window, because we've lost players to Liverpool before. We've lost players to Manchester United before. And I'm not saying we did that with João Pedro, etc. I think they're the ones we've genuinely lost out. But this week, it kind of feels like Newcastle have been quite clever. And do you agree with that? You mentioned a bit of it earlier, but am I maybe just looking too deep into it, and maybe are we just being a bit hopeful?
I think they might have opportunistically realised that Liverpool really would break the bank to get Isak.
Yeah.
And rather than actually slap some huge offer in, which would have to be put to Isak, he'd have to be asked before he started negotiating a new contract. I think, by the way, we're going to have to offer silly money to him on his new contract when we've already told him that we think he's worth more than £120 million.
Yeah, 100%.
But that's fine. I think when we went in for Ekitike, I think that was a genuine bid. I think it was genuinely would love to see those two playing together. But let's be honest, there are plenty of 22, 23-year-old strikers showing a lot of promise that could benefit from coming and working alongside the rest of our forward line and having Eddie Howe and Jason Tindall's input to them. We don't
100%.
have to pay the huge amount for Ekitike. I think we could spend half the amount and go and get some very exciting, promising strikers. which is our model, isn't it? Buy at a
Yeah,
good
exactly.
price, turn them into world class players over the next 18 months, like Bruno, like Tonali, Botman. We do it. That's how we do it. So I wouldn't be at all surprised if there wasn't some sort of smokescreen thing going on here, purely to get Liverpool to not be in the market for a striker this summer anymore.
Yeah,
And
100%. And we've seen
if that's a case, well played.
Yeah, 100%. I think it's one of those. We've seen these kind of tactics before. Barella, we apparently made a bid for. And then next thing we know, Sandro Tonali was a Newcastle United player. We were in Milan, just not the Milan we were thinking. But I ask that because my belief all along ends on Ekitike was the deal didn't really make sense. I've said since day one, I thought it was agent talk. If he turns out to be a world beater, I'll look like an idiot, but I'm more than prepared to do that. Because to me it didn't make sense. Yoane Wissa, that's a signing that makes sense on paper, but it doesn't match Newcastle's transfer strategy at all. As you mentioned, we buy young, turn them into superstars. So it's one of those where I generally think we've realised as soon as we move for a player, other teams in the top six go, we can't let Newcastle have them. We go for them because they're great players, they're fit to us, but we can't let them have them. And I think we're trying to control the situation with that. And if that leads to Dominic Calvert-Lewin being our next and only signing for the rest of July, I'm happy to look like an idiot, and that isn't the case. But I think the club we've got a clever group in the back room. You know, they're not idiots. They know what they're doing. And it's just been Anthony Elanga at this point, while all of our rivals have spent a lot of money, Newcastle could easily dominate the end of the transfer window. But with that, we mentioned earlier, Liverpool willing to pay 120 million for Alexander Isak. We laughed them out the building. So my question to you is, how much is Alexander Isak worth to Newcastle United? What do you think?
Well, he's priceless for Newcastle United, and we've done everything to hang on to him. How
Yeah.
much is he worth in the football transfer market? What is his price? How much? What's our record? What did Neymar go for? 211 or something.
Yeah, something like that. It was something baffling.
Um, so I don't think he's quite got the stardust that Neymar had.
No.
But we did laugh. We did not even blink when we said no to 120 million. So what do you think? 160, 180,
Yeah,
175,
makes sense.
something like that.
Yeah, I
I
think on
think
a 3 year contract,
they'd have to go through the 150 barrier for sure.
100%. He'd be the most expensive player from the English leagues by 20, 30 million, I think, guaranteed. And I think because we got him on that 3 year contract, signed a 6 year 3 years ago, every year is probably going to take, 40 million off his price tag. So even if we don't sell him this year, you're looking at maybe 120 next year, 80 million when he's got a year left. Probably nothing when he's got 6 months left. But I don't think we get to that point. I think we offer him a contract extension this summer. He's apparently, from what I've seen, he's on 120,000 a week, which is not even nearly enough for Alexander Isak. Bruno Guimaraes is a highest earner on around 160, if reports are being believed. Do you think we'll smash that 160 for Alexander Isak? It's a no-brainer in my opinion, but
If I was Alex Isak, I would say to the Newcastle board, you think that Bruno is a 100 million player and Tonali's a 100 million player, and Gordon, who's the other high earner, is a 100 million
yeah.
player. Maybe not quite that. But then I would say I'm 150 million. I mean, he could have 50% more than Bruno, couldn't he? That's taking him up to
Oof, 240.
240, right? Now, he loves it here. He wants to stay. And I would imagine that we'd get up to 200. But then we're
Yeah.
in the same position this time next year. So maybe we go for another little contract extension next year, hopefully with some semi-finalist Champions League money and a
Hmm.
runners-up in the Premier League money and a training ground sponsor, a training kit sponsor, and etc. etc. There's a lot of place where we can get more money that we haven't got
Yeah.
yet, and I think that's one of the limiting factors for us. or the limiting factor for how much we could spend on wages and transfers is that our commercial turnover is nowhere near the commercial turnover of these top six. So we have to do the work
100%.
with sponsors, etc., to push that closer and closer. And of course, performing well in the Champions League and the Premier League. I think I heard that our fifth place finish brought 160 million quid in from the Premier
Wow.
League this afternoon, including
It's
television
insane.
appearances, etc.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, we need that. We need to be performing there. We need to be pushing on, and why not? If we've got a great first team, we've got Alanga now to back that up. Two or three more signings, I think we've got a squad that can have a great first team every game we turn out for.
Yeah, 100%. And just with that, less on the striker front, into the position where I actually think we really do need someone. It's a right-sided centre-back this window.
Mhm.
Keith Downey put something out an hour ago. Thankfully, I saw it before we went on the podcast. But apparently, we've obviously been looking at Giorgio Scalvini from Atalanta, but the club are also apparently looking at Nicolo Savona from Juventus and Valencia's Cesar Tarrega as two cheaper options. Obviously, all three are very, very young. Do you think the youth of those kind of players, obviously they're still playing regularly for Juventus and Valencia, and of course for Atalanta, but do you think the youth of those players tells you that how's confident he can get another season out of Fabian Schär and Sven Botman at centre-back, even with Dan Burn as backup?
I think, well, yeah, I think Fabshar was one of the top performers last year. I know he had a little bit of a blip, but he did
Mm-hmm.
come back strong towards the end of the season. Um, he retired from international football, didn't he, to prolong his club career, I think.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm sure Fab Shah is looking forward to the season the same way he looked forward to last season. I don't think he's thinking, "Oh, these tired old bones aren't gonna carry me through," because he played nearly every game last year.
Yeah.
He
So
doesn't get
he's.
he doesn't get injured very often.
Mm-hmm.
I think if we've got and let's look at the profile of these guys that Keith Downey's mentioning: young, under 21 internationals, Italian
Yeah.
centre back, Spanish centre back. Um, they sound like the great players to come in for the last half an hour, or take on the FA Cup, Carabao Cup games to start with, and get them bedded into the system with Fab Sharp, Jamal Lascelles, Dan Burn to bring him on board.
Yeah.
I think it makes
100%.
more sense than bringing in a Mark Gay for 70 million, where there's
I'd
suddenly
agree.
you're just disrupting the first team because he's going to want to play. I know these guys will want to play and they will get to play, but I think that they would probably come in expecting to have some bedding in time.
Yeah.
I quite like that Sandro Tonali is a bit of a secret agent for all of these up and coming super tough Italian centre halves, of course, because he'll have played against them, won't he?
Yeah. Yeah. 100%. I think it's one of those where out of the two deals, I managed to do a little bit of research on the two before we came on, and from the looks of things, Savona's actually played more of a right back role for Juventus, but the plan would be for Newcastle to move him into the centre back position. But he also signed a contract extension with Juventus just over a month ago, which has put him on a 5-year contract. So I think that's one that to me seems maybe a little unlikely. The Valencia the youngster, he signed a new contract last season, but he started quite a lot for Valencia this year. The thing that stands out to me is they're both 6'4". And when you're looking at like Mark Gay and stuff like that, you're thinking, yeah, they don't really have that physicality you'd lose from maybe not having Dan Burn in there. These two 6'4" young defenders remind me a bit of maybe a Dean Huijsen, who's just come from Juventus and so ended up at Real Madrid with Bournemouth in between. I think 6'4", quite strong. I think it's one of those where maybe we're preparing more for life after Dan Burn with those two, and Fabian Schär can remain as one of those who, stays at the back but can still pass the ball around anyways. But it's good to see we're going for a young centre backs, because I've always said I think we need a centre back over a striker. Do you think that should be the priority, centre back?
Well, it's interesting. Definitely think centre back should be the priority. I wouldn't be at all surprised if on Eddie's Christmas list he had two centre backs to come in.
Yeah,
Given the injury record of Botman and Lascelles, but
true.
yeah, I'm just wondering if Keith has moved on to Keith Downey, who's very close to the camp, has moved on
Mm-hmm.
to centre backs, because this time yesterday we reportedly had put a bid in for Ekitike that triggered the release clause, and according to Ekitike yesterday, it's
Mm-hmm.
Newcastle or nothing. So whether we thought
Yeah,
that's a done deal, and then Keith's been briefed about the centre halves that we're going to go for next, and then that's how close we've come to getting Ekitike. And Liverpool have moved super fast. Um, and to be fair, you can't blame the kid picking Liverpool ahead of Newcastle,
no,
unless you
absolutely
bought
not.
completely into the project. I mean, he's guaranteed Premier League medal and a Champions League final appearance next year if he goes to Liverpool. Let's be fair. I mean, they were the best team by miles in the league, and they've spent 300 million quid on their team.
Yeah,
Um,
it's a
so
worrying
so
one.
I'm just wondering if what Keith said is jumping the gun a little bit, because the striker was the priority, and if they've
Yeah,
suddenly got to row back from getting a centre half because they definitely want to get this striker in place, um, time will tell as it unfolds. I don't mind us going for centre backs. I think they're critical, and
100%.
I haven't heard much other than talks will be restarted again next week about James Trafford in goal. But I think he
Yeah,
should be down the line. I don't think goalkeeper is is as critical as either a second striker um, or a centre half or two.
yeah. I
And
think that might
I
be
mean,
the reason it hasn't been done yet. To be honest, I think Eddie's sitting there and going, right, we don't have unlimited amount of money to spend. Let's go for the priorities first. By the way, James Trafford, there is 30 million there. We might take it up to 40, but we don't want to at the minute. But just to let you know, we do want you, but maybe we just can't afford it right now, and we're going to get the priorities in instead. Not that we can't afford it. We've just tried to put 70 down on Ekitike, but you got to know where the priorities are.
I think that, yeah, and to be fair, Longstaff being sold to Leeds for anything between 12 and 15. I'm not sure what you can bring in, probably the 12.
Yeah,
But I think on a PSR basis, that funds a 60 million player over the next 5 years with a 5 year contract,
yeah,
um, which could easily be the centre half, or what do you call him, Conor Gallagher, and another younger
yeah.
midfielder to come in. Because we're now a midfield man short, aren't we? We haven't replaced Elliot Anderson, and now Sean Longstaff's gone as well. So I mean, maybe we need two midfielders. I want to see these friendly games though, and see how some of the guys coming up out of the under 21s are going to perform, because we have heard at different times about the right back. What's he
Yeah.
called? Zahar. We
Mm.
saw a little bit of Zanussi, the washing machine man, last year on the left wing. What you call him, Alfie from Man City, was meant to be
Alfie Harrison,
close.
yeah.
It could easily be a Lewis Miley step up, and Lewis Miley, of course, he's been in and around the first team for the last 2 or 3
Couple of
seasons.
seasons, yeah.
So let's hope we don't need to be buying replacements for all these players, and we can actually get cover um, out of the under 21s, because that allows us to spend our money in the areas where, bless him, Ben Parkinson isn't going to be good enough to step up and be the second striker.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. And we'll get on to the friendly games a bit more in a moment. But for now, we're going to have a little advert from Bioniq.
Your body is unique. And Global Sports Podcast Network has partnered with Bioniq, the world's most personalised supplements. Bioniq provide 100% tailor-made supplements designed to deliver precisely what your body needs at exactly the right levels to optimise your health. No guessing. So click the link in the show notes. Use the code GSPN2025 for 40% off your first month's subscription. Bioniq. Don't settle for off-the-shelf solutions made for just anybody. Get what's right for you right now. Your body is unique.
It's so random. You know, the thing is, I didn't change it in Bioniq this time in our presets. So for anyone wondering why that keeps happening, we have a little soundboard on the side here that's used by the whole Global Sports podcast network. And I'll be honest, when Bioniq and the intro are on there, I just keep them. And sometimes it loops. That's me being lazy, unfortunately. I will try to do better in the future. But looking at doing better in the future, the season is starting again in Newcastle. They're looking to do one better than they did last season and win 2 trophies. No, better than we did in the Champions League, at least. The transfer talk is done for now. We have a first official friendly at the weekend against Celtic. Always good to see we play a big team from around the UK. It is available for everyone to watch on the club's package, or I believe if you're in Newcastle, the game is being streamed at Stack from 3 till 5. On Saturday, it's the only friendly being done so. No, I'm not being paid to say that, but it will be. It's going to be nice, and I should be there myself, so it'll be good to see some people. But I'll dive straight into pre-season because I've got a couple of questions I want to ask you about the process. So the first one is, who are you looking at with high expectations in pre-season? And you can add whatever comment you're going to add.
I'm just going to say first, Michael, because you did say we're going to make a prediction about the weekend. Can I predict that if you go to Stack, you will not be the only person watching that game in Stack on your own? Don't worry.
Oh, I know I won't be.
More people there. There will be some more people there.
I know, I'm going with people. I mean, just like seeing some people from who will listen to the pod, etc., and stuff like that. It'd be nice to listen to some. Get to speak to some fans of the pod. Yeah.
Apologies for that. What was the question, Michael? Sorry.
Here we go. So who are you looking at with high expectations in pre-season?
Obviously, I'm hoping that we see Anthony Elanga. I really want to see him in the black and white shirt. I'm hoping 2 years ago it was Tonali's first game when they played away at Rangers on the first friendly of the season. And I think he was man of the match in that game. So I'd love to see Elanga tear it up. I'd love to see him already with some sort of understanding with Tino, maybe down on the right-hand side.
Yeah.
Want to see that telepathic link that he's already got with Alexander Isak, if we can get them on the pitch together. But it's difficult to know, isn't it, really, who's going to be playing, who's not going to be playing. I know the internationals have just basically reported back in time to go to Austria for their training week, but they should all get a game because it seems like it's been actually, when you add the internationals on, it's been really quite a short summer break because they've been back since July the 7th. So I want Elanga to do something special, and then of course I will be watching, hoping to see those magic links that make all that one-touch stuff and that super fast transition work already taking shape.
Yeah, 100%. And to be honest, the player I'm really looking forward to seeing, obviously Elanga, it'll be great to see him in action, but I'm really hoping we see some more from William Osula. Obviously, we got glimpses at the end of last season. We got more than a glimpse in the pre-season friendly games at the start of last season. And you can just see there's a player in there. And these are the games where, you can unlock that potential ahead of the season. And what better way for fans to forget about Hugo Ekitike would be a William Osula hat-trick against Celtic.
I'm not sure he'll be on the pitch long enough to get that. But, hey, he's fast. He's strong.
Yeah.
And he showed when he played against Ipswich, I think, that he knows how to win a header from a corner.
He knows where the onion bag is.
That is a cracking take. So I'd love to see Will Osula show all of that power and skill that we've seen in flashes a little bit more consistently, because I think this pre-season he's winning the trust of Eddie Howe and Jason Tindall to be able to be first change for whoever's on a striker, even if there are 2 strikers kicking off. That's what we need. We need 3. If we're going to play 2 up front, or even one up front interchanging with somebody on the left, which is kind of what they were talking about. Wissa or Ekitike playing with Isak. Osula will be coming on quite regularly to replace one or two of them.
Yeah, 100%. And the question is just whether or not he's ready. And I'll be honest, I think he is. I've seen enough to say he can come off the bench and cause a difference. But we spoke a bit about Osula, as he's not quite a youngster. You mentioned obviously the likes of Alfie Harrison, etc. earlier. Are there any youngsters that you feel need to be featured quite a lot in pre-seasons just so we can see what they're doing or what level they're at?
I would be, having heard one or two little whispers that maybe Kieran Trippier wants a move.
Okay.
I'd love to see Sahar come in and show that, because he's highly rated, the right back.
Yeah.
I'd like to see him come in and show that he's where Tino was when he joined, for example. If he's mature like that, maybe we could let Trippier go. That's a big wage. I don't think they get much of a fee for him, of course, but it's a big wage to come out. 100,000 a week is 5 million back in the budget. That could be important.
That's a great point.
So I'd like to see Sahar. As I say, I'd love to see one or two of the midfielders come on and show as much promise as Lewis Miley did when he came on as an unknown for me in that Cellar Cup where we played or that team that the Bournemouth manager was running. Who was that? Oh, God,
Real Vallecano?
Real Vallecano. Miley came on for the second half of that game and looked really, really good. I think Sean Longstaff scored in the second minute of that game. But yeah, I'd like to see one or two of the under-21 midfielders come on and actually, what's Joe White like? I was quite encouraged by Joe White at the end of the season before last, and he went out on loan last year. I don't know if he did very much out on loan, but he's a year older and a year wiser, and he will have played some senior football. So is Joe White going to make the grade? I'd like to see him. I think he'll get some game time because it's this early in the season, and he's done his 2 weeks training. Let's see how he's progressed.
Just got it up there. I couldn't remember who we played last season either. It was Girona who we played in that game where we were 3-0 up after 15 minutes. The Man City link, they were in the Champions League as well. I couldn't remember for the life of me who it was either, and I looked mainly to see who the second team was. It was Stade Brest, both in the Champions League, which is why we picked them. His point's still the same. He was fantastic in that game, and it's one of those where, we do seem to like playing a Spanish team in the Cellar Cup. I don't think Atletico Madrid are going to roll over quite like Girona and Villarreal did. But I'm really looking forward to that game. But obviously, we have Celtic before that, as you mentioned, Joe White. I think it was Crewe he was on loan at. I think it's been one of those where he's had a few loan spells. He's one of the few youngsters that actually seems to have gone out on loan. Because it feels, I've looked at quite a few profiles recently being like, oh, what's happened to this player? And it's just sat in the reserves. Ben Parkinson is one, to be fair. So I'm wondering what Shola's doing, to be honest. But it'll be good to see them players featured because, as you mentioned, it's almost a last chance season for Joe White.
I think it is, and I think it is for the centre-half, whose name has escaped me now, but he did come on
Alex
and play.
Murphy?
Alex Murphy.
Yeah.
He looked quite impressive in those games.
Yeah. Young Irishman.
And he played centre-half in one of them, I think, rather than just left-back, so he is quite versatile as well. I had high hopes back then for those. And I do think, by the way, they were games where I was at, and I wasn't at the Stade Brest Cellar Cup. So it was 2 years ago when it was Real Vallecano and Villarreal. Yeah. It was 2 years ago that Miley blew my socks off by coming on as a kid and looking super good. And of course, it was that season that he came into the team and played the matches in Champions League, etc. So I shouldn't have been surprised.
To be honest, he's a fantastic player. I think he's one of the ones that last season we probably wanted to see a bit more from. But when you've got Joe Linton, Sandro Tonali, and Bruno Guimaraes, and then you've got players who need game time and Joe Willock and Sean Longstaff behind them. It's very hard for the likes of Lewis Miley to get game time. I think you'll find it a bit easier this year. Probably going into the season, he'll be fourth choice because I still feel like we will sell Joe Willock. Or it might be one last season for Joe Willock as well, because I think we've got 5 or 6 players who, realistically, if they don't go this summer, are guaranteed to be gone next summer. And there's a lot of youngsters that go on top of that. So with that in mind, can you give me one player who you think needs a big pre-season to prove himself and keep his career at St. James's Park?
I've already written some of them off. So I'm going to
Same,
go
to be
back, by
honest.
the way. I'm going to go back to who needs a really good pre-season, and I'm going to go back to Lewis Miley to put himself so far advanced that maybe we don't need a Conor Gallagher, an established England international to come and step to back up the midfield. I want him to show
100%.
that he's as good enough to do that, because he was down. He's captained the under-19s for England, I think, and he was down to play in the under-21s, which is a year or two ahead of where he is.
Yeah, something like
But he
that.
got injured, so he should hopefully. What I really want him to show is, despite how impressive he's been, when we saw him against Bromley in the FA Cup, he took
Yeah,
the game by the scruff of the neck. He showed Sean Longstaff up, and if you remember, we were behind in that game, and it was Miley who took the ball, beat 2 men, and rifled a shot right into the top corner. Showed
yeah,
the confidence that I want him to show, because I do feel sometimes when he's been in the first team, certainly last year, you can see him thinking about it and then coming back and playing a little ball back to Trips or playing it inside to Tonali. I want him to have the confidence to try something. When
yeah.
he's done
So
that, he got the ability to do it. Just remember that fantastic through ball for an Isak goal against Fulham, I think it was. I know it was his goals against Fulham. That ball through was
I know which
anyway.
one you're on about. It's the defence
He's
splitting
got the
one where
ability.
he's there, Isak's coming round, and he just puts it straight through 2 defenders. Yeah, I know the one you're on
Absolutely.
about. I can't remember the team.
He's got the confidence. He's got the ability to do that. But I think sometimes he's thinking, "I'll try this, but it might fail, so I'll just knock the ball back." And I know there are times when you've got to do that, but not every time.
Yeah, it would have been against Chelsea because it was just before. Yeah, it would have been in the 4-1 where Thiago Silva had an absolute howler, and Joe Linton just gets the ball about 5 yards from goal and decides to blast it behind at the goalkeeper. Well, not at the goalkeeper, in the back of the net. What an amazing day that was. But yeah, Miley is one who I think needs a big campaign to maybe avoid being loaned out. I think
The other
another
one, of
one.
course. Oh, sorry, I was going to have another one.
It's all right. I
Or
think we might pick the same player.
Gordon versus Barnes. They
Okay.
both need. They both need some good pre-seasons, because otherwise they might become saleable assets if we still
Yeah,
need some. If we still need some budget going through into the end of August,
it's a great
um,
point.
because we have got Zanussi, who might well be able to come and play on the left. Alanga can play on the left. Whoever this new striker is that comes in, if he is a centre forward, Isak can play on the left if he needs to be accommodated.
Same
So
with Joe
I
Linton
think,
as well. So we've got
and
more than
with
enough
Joe,
options.
yeah, I think that Barnes and Gordon. I don't mean they're up against and we'll get rid of one of them. However,
Oh no.
that's kind of the choice in every game last year, wasn't it? Who's playing on the left? It'll be Barnes or it'll be Gordon.
Yeah.
Um,
I I think last season when we were doing some sort of practice podcasts, we were talking about them pre-season. I picked Jacob Murphy to do really well in pre-season last year, and I think he ended up being top goal scorer. I genuinely have the same feeling that Harvey Barnes will do the same. And don't be wrong, he'll probably not get any minutes to get injured first game and not score one. But he feels like the kind of player who this pre-season is just going to take it by the scruff of the neck and get a number of goals for us. But the other player that I wanted to mention who needs a big pre-season, and maybe it's to move away from Newcastle rather than stay, is Joe Willock. I think with Longstaff going, I don't think Willock leaves. I did think Willock would be the one to go over Longstaff. Maybe it ends up being both, but I think from what he was, the highly touted prospect when we first signed him, broke a record for us, scoring most consecutive games while he was on loan, 25 million. Had a great season when we finished fourth the first time. Hasn't really done anything since. And with that injury record, I think someone will come in for him, but the quality of that team, I think, is going to depend on how he starts pre-season. What do you think?
I think that player is still in there. We saw flashes of it. When he came on against Forest, he was excellent. He was excellent, aggressive, running down the left, carrying the ball. But we didn't see enough of that last year. So, yeah, I would agree with you. He needs a good pre-season to force himself into the reckoning every game. You don't want to be ending up as a Matt Targett who was sitting on the bench and training, but is never going to be called up unless there's an injury crisis.
Yeah, 100%.
So yeah, I think that was Emil Kraft at the start of last year as well. Although he came on and performed well enough to actually be in consideration as a substitute most of the games. I mean, he was picked as a substitute a lot, and Targett wasn't.
Yeah,
but yeah,
100%.
I agree. They've all got all the guys who we might be getting rid of need to be bloody good in pre-season in order not to be the down payment on an upgrade, if you see what I mean. It's a harsh way of talking about these guys who I love, all of them.
Yeah.
I mean, Willock's such a good player. You watch there's a YouTube reel of all Newcastle's goals from that Champions League season, and Willock is involved he scores a lot of them, and he's involved in so many of them. But I remember that ball with the outside of his foot through for Isak to score the fourth against
Tottenham,
against Spurs in that 6-1 victory.
Greatest assist of all
Brilliant.
time.
Brilliant. Yeah. But we haven't seen it. We haven't seen it or enough of it for a long time.
Yeah, it is unfortunate because there is a real player in there, and that's a great example of it. Now, just to finish up, obviously it's difficult to pick an 11 or a prediction for what's going to happen in the game because it's a first preseason game. No one really knows what's going to happen. But I want you to give me one prediction ahead of the game. It could be anything. Doesn't have to be the scoreline, so it might not be a free one. It could be an event during the game. I'll start off. My example is I genuinely think we'll see John Ruddy play for Newcastle in a game for the first time. Second half, comes on for probably Pope, who'll start the game, and we will finally see that beautiful bald head in a Newcastle shirt on the pitch. What do you think?
I hope you're right. I hope you're right. And there's a chance, isn't there? Because the Odysseas and Dubravka are back pretty late.
Yeah.
But there's a chance. I imagine goalkeeper, do they need a lot of training to get up to match fitness, particularly if they've been away with their national team?
Probably not, but I can dream.
I think it might be Pope and Dubravka personally. My prediction, I'll go bolder. Michael. Ooh. I think we'll see Anthony Elanga score and assist.
On a debut. There you have it. John Ruddy and Elanga making their debuts. One getting a goal and an assist, and well, I guess Elanga will have to do something as well. But no, I kid. Thank you for joining me in. That's all we have time for on today's Daily Newcastle podcast. Newcastle and Celtic's previous two games have had 5 goals combined in each game. Will we see another goal fest on Saturday? It'd certainly be a good way to start pre-season. And as long as we don't get beat 5-0, we'll have still done better than Sunderland did. See you later.
Every club. Every day. The Global Sports Podcast Network.